The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus went to the region of Caesarea Philippi, and he asked his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter said in reply, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus said to him in reply, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father. And so I say to you, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Then he strictly ordered his disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ. From that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer greatly from the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. Then Peter took Jesus aside and began to rebuke him. "God forbid, Lord. No such thing shall ever happen to you." He turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an obstacle to me. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do." The Gospel of the Lord. Do we trust God? I mean, truly, do we trust him? That he's guiding, leading us, and that if we follow him, everything will be okay? Do we trust him? The readings today, in fact, many of the readings this whole week, has been focusing on that question, and do we really trust God? Because it's a great question, and it's a question that we're confronted with, especially when the storms hit. See, it's all beautiful and dandy to trust God. Say, I love God. When on a beautiful spring afternoon, the sun is shining, the weather is absolutely perfect, light sweater weather, as we say. Everything is nice and dandy. Do you trust God? Yes, in this moment. All right, well, do you trust God in the hurricanes then? Because here is Moses. Moses, they're walking through the desert, and the famous story of Moses striking the rock. This is 40 years into the desert. 40. They've seen Pharaoh destroyed, God parting the waters, God providing bread from heaven, God, the pillar of fire, leading the entire Israelite people to the promised land. And then here we are. This is towards right at the end, before the end of the promised land. And they're thirsty. The people are grumbling, about to rebel. Oh, we've ever seen a mob? Mobs are terrifying. And they're ready to revolt against Moses and Aaron. And so God says, all right, I want you to speak to this rock and provide water. Notice there's a subtle difference here. Because God tells Moses to provide for the people by speaking to the rock. But what does Moses do instead? He takes his staff and he strikes the rock. Why? And for this subtle difference, God punishes Moses and tells him, because of your infidelity, your unfaithfulness, you will not enter the promised land. You see, for desert people, there are certain porous rocks in the desert which contain water. And so it was customary, if you're thirsty in the middle of the desert, you can actually crack open a rock and water will flow. And so Moses was, as a plan B, just in case God didn't provide, He can strike the rock and still provide water. You see, what Moses was doing was, he still did not trust that God would provide water. And so his backup plan was, I'll just strike this rock, and in case God doesn't provide, well, I can strike the rock and the rock will still flow with water. Do you see that subtle difference there? Moses did not trust fully yet. How about in the gospel today? Jesus tells Peter, I will build my church upon you. And this is the whole doctrine of the papacy, why we're Catholic. Do we still trust the Pope, even if we don't like him? Or how about when the Pope is evil morally? How about in 1492? Pope Alexander VI now reigns. And Pope Alexander VI was a very, very bad pope. He had fathered many, many children. He had used the papacy for his own political power and for his family. He had moved his family members into key positions in the church. Are we still faithful, even when the Pope is bad? Oh, many are not. They break away from the church. The whole Protestant Reformation in the 16th century shows that. Or how about the great Pope we remember today, Pope Sixtus? 257, the emperor is now Valerian. He launches a fierce persecution against us, targeting the bishops, the priests, and the deacons. And part of the decree of Valerian was that if you were a distinguished member of Roman society, if you were a senator or high noble class, and if you were a practicing Christian, you would have your entire property, your houses, your homes seized by the emperor, confiscated. And if you still profess Jesus Christ, you would be sentenced to death. Do we trust God then? Do we trust God in the storms? Is the question before us. And the great witness of Pope Sixtus and his fellow priests and companions is the reason why today we wear red. Do we trust like them?